Hello and welcome to another episode of Couples Tête-à-Tête. My name is Barine Gbosi.
I'm Bunmi.
We've been talking about communication. We've been talking about how important communication is between couples and how it is that if it is not done right, there could be problems.
Yes.
Yeah?
True.
Okay. But with every communication, there can also be conflict, right?
Sure.
Okay, so
What causes conflicts in marriage? If we understand the causes of conflict, we'll be in a better position to resolve them.
Yeah.
Let's discover a few things that give rise to conflict.
fantastic. So today we're going to be taking you through a few things that give rise to conflict. And the first one we want to talk about is communication breakdown. But let us break down communication breakdown. And I'm going to be doing that for you. And then we'll talk about a few other things. What are some of the things that happen when you're communicating? The first thing, by the way, there are a lot of things that can cause misunderstanding, that can cause conflicts. So the ones we're focusing on are not the whole list, but they give you some guidelines and they help you. So coming back to communication breakdown, two people are talking. Suddenly one person is saying one thing, the other person is hearing something else. Communication has broken down right there. So because they are understanding something else from what the person who is speaking is saying, there can be misinterpretations and there can be assumptions.
Yes.
Okay? So communication breakdown could be misinterpretations, it could be assumptions. The other aspect of communication breakdown is when people listen to respond rather than listening to understand. Do you see that happening many times?
Yes.
Absolutely. Listening to respond rather than listening to understand. When we spoke earlier on about communication, one of the things we said was listen to understand. But so often, communication breaks down because the one person is just waiting for the other person to finish speaking. It's like, just get it out of your mind, get it off your chest. I want to say my piece. Okay.
Remember that we also talked about, I don't know if we've talked about that, sandwich communication.
We did.
Where you say something, I repeat what I believe I
Right.
heard, and then you affirm it.
Absolutely.
That would help.
That helps. So it helps rather than you just listening because you're waiting for the person to finish talking and you want to talk. No. The other angle by which communication can break down is when there's sarcasm and passive aggression. So somebody says something, it's okay, I understand, I believe you. Yeah, you're very right. You're being sarcastic. First, it hurts the feeling of the person who is listening. Secondly, it escalates the issue. Then, of course, there's passive aggression. You're not really being aggressive, but your body language, your tone of voice, your facial expressions shows aggression. One way of being passively aggressive is refusing food. And men do that a lot. There's a story that we know about that. You want to share that story?
Oh, a friend of ours prepared food for the husband. She's a good cook. She likes to give her husband a nice dinner because he does not, that's the only meal he eats at home. But this day, the man was unhappy with her. So he came and she said, oh, your food is ready, the table is set. And he said, I'm not eating tonight. And she was saying, why? What? But, well, like he was passively aggressive.
Yes.
So she decided that, oh, even though I'm watching my weight, I'm going to go and eat that food because my labor will not be in vain. So she went, sat down and ate the food. The following day, she prepared dinner as usual and invited her husband. And, he thought about it and was being slow. Then she started moving and he got up and quickly went and said,
That was the funny part.
Went and ate the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He got up and quickly went and ate the food. So he was being passively aggressive, and that's not good. The other way in which communication breaks down is the silent treatment. So I'm upset with my wife, and so I refuse to talk. Now, I don't even know how people can do that, because if you are praying together as husband and wife, how can you maintain silent treatment for days? Just this afternoon, I talked with a young man. I had spoken with him earlier, a few days earlier, and then I spoke with his wife, and then I spoke with him again today. But what I found out while talking to them this past few days was that because he was upset with his wife, he hadn't spoken to her for days. That does not help matters at all. The final thing we want to look at when we're talking about communication breakdown is escalation rather than de-escalation. So somebody is talking and is already feeling unhappy. Find ways to douse the tension rather than speaking words that will inflame the person even more. And one way of inflaming the person even more is you raising your voice. By the time you raise your voice, you start gesticulating wildly, the issue escalates rather than de-escalating. What does the Bible tell us about communication breakdown? In Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13, we read these words: one who gives an answer before he hears the matter, it is foolishness and shame to him. Because that communication has broken down. It is foolishness and shame. So, don't let communication break down. But there are other things that make for conflict. What else?
Sure. But before we go on to other things, remember that when we're talking of de-escalating, one of the key scriptures we look at is where it says a soft answer turns away wrath. Because that applies in every situation.
Yes.
If you decide to calm down and speak softly and with respect, the other person will de-escalate.
Yes, there will be tendency for it to de-escalate. Absolutely right. Thank you.
So, unmet expectations is another thing that brings about conflict. Unmet expectations about household responsibilities, finances and lifestyle, extended family and friends, and boundaries in marriage. Also spiritual expectations and sexual expectations and conflict resolution style. These are all things that could bring conflict, because when you don't have the same understanding, the same background, people from different backgrounds have different understanding about how things should be done in marriage. And many of us go into marriage with all sorts of ideas. I remember that man who was asking, what did you expect? It's good to talk together and understand what you expect and how your background affects those things that are your expectations. Then it will be easier for you to work together in agreement. James 4:1-2 tell us, what is the source of quarrels and conflicts among you? Is the source not your pleasures that wage war in your body's parts? You lust and do not have, so you commit murder, and you are envious and cannot obtain, so you fight and quarrel. You do not have because you do not ask. And when we ask God for wisdom in our relationships, for wisdom in everything, in conflict resolution, He will give us that wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So we look at another thing that causes conflict in marriage: financial strain. I don't have the statistics, but somebody has said that there are 3 major things that cause problems in marriages: sex, money, and communication. So when we talk about financial strain, yes, it is a major cause of conflict. How does financial strain play out? It plays out in insufficient funds. The money is just not enough. So your take-home pay does not take you to the bus stop. And so you begin to have issues at home. I've heard of women who are unhappy with their husband because he's not earning enough. And he is, of course, unhappy with himself because he's not providing for his family. Then, of course, there's poor financial management. So the money is there, but somehow between the two, husband and wife, they are not managing it properly. Maybe sometime we'll talk about budgeting, but I can just chip this in. If you budget properly, you'll be able to manage your finances well. To a large extent, that is true. You wanted to say something?
Yeah,
Good.
because part of the problem with management of money is that sometimes the person who wants to manage the budget is not the person who has the skills to do it. The person who wants to manage the budget is not the one who has the discipline to make it work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to know each other's strengths and allow the person who can better handle the finances. Sometimes the man feels it's my job.
God-given right. I can tell you for free that for most of our marriage, she has handled financing, investments, and so on. It's very funny. In the last few years, she decided to dedicate it to me. I don't know why. And well, I have learned, so I am doing it.
You are doing a good job.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you, man. But yes, know your skills. Like my wife just said, know where your strengths are and use those strengths. It doesn't matter whether it's she that can manage it or I that can manage it. The important thing is our funds, our income, our finances are being managed. The other aspect of financial problems that causes conflict is income imbalance. What do we mean by that? Sometimes one person is earning more than another person, and some men find that a problem. It's just an ego thing, by the way, that my wife is earning more than me, and so I begin to feel what? Inferior, threatened, insecure. That should not happen. That should not happen. But unfortunately, it happens. But I think maybe even worse than that, another matter that causes that causes conflict in financial matters is the lack of financial integrity. I've heard of situations where husband and wife have a joint account, but because the wife trusts her husband, she doesn't bother to know what's happening, and he draws out all the money in the account, and he cannot account or explain how it is that he got all the money out. And many times he's used them for things that he doesn't want his wife to know about. That's not right. And that is why Luke chapter 14 verse 28 tells us, for which one of you, when he wants to build a tower, does not first sit down, calculate the cost to see if he has enough to complete it. So sit down, calculate the cost of your money. Sit down, calculate the things you want to do. Calculate what you have in your hand that can handle those things before you go on. Otherwise, you run into financial issues, and that could bring a lot of conflict, which you don't want in your home.
Sure. So another cause of conflict in marriage is differences in upbringing. Cultural and traditional differences. When in some countries, when people from different cultures marry, they have challenges settling down and understanding each other. Different worldviews based on upbringing at home, school, or even church could also cause this conflict or misunderstanding. Because it's interesting that we would say church, but yes, there are different doctrines, and some people are they're so stuck in the doctrine that they expect the other person to follow suit. And that will cause problems. Proverbs 22:6 says, train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he grows older, he will not abandon it.
So both of you will now need to retrain yourselves in the way you should go, even though you are not children. But as far as in that relationship, as far as that relationship concerned, that relationship of marriage, you are children starting that relationship. So train up yourselves in the way you should go. Together. Put aside your traditional differences, cultural differences, doctrinal and denominational differences, and focus on the Word of God, which is why we keep coming back to the Word of God time and time again. One last thing that we want to bring out today that causes conflicts in homes: life transitions. What do you mean by life transitions? If you're the typical family, you probably will move home a number of times during the period of your marriage. You're either moving from one part of town to another, or you're moving from one part of the country to another, or you're moving from one country to another. You are relocating. That can bring stress, it can bring pressure. Because of course, all that relocation has financial implications, has emotional implications, has social implications. And if not properly managed, it could cause conflict. The other aspect of life moves and changes is job changes and transfers. Many years ago, when Abuja became the capital of Nigeria, a lot of families ran into trouble because of that singular fact. Oh, not the fact that Abuja became a capital, but because husband started working in Abuja, wife was mostly in Lagos. Remember, Lagos was the federal capital before Abuja became federal capital. So the families were in Lagos, the husbands were making money in Abuja, or supposedly so. But many husbands started keeping a second family in Abuja. Immediately, there was conflict, of course. And very often the wife back in Lagos did not know anything about it. And of course, whenever the matter came up into the open, it escalated into a lot of conflict and trouble. Conflict can also be caused by sickness. These are part of the life changes we're talking about. Sickness can bring about conflict. If one partner has a long-term ailment and care has to happen, it becomes a lot of trouble. Interestingly, just today, before we came to record this episode, I heard of a man who is now having to move into a nursing home because he has issues with his eyes, he can't see very well, and his wife is not very comfortable or helpful in that situation. So to avoid the drama in the home, he has moved into a nursing home just so that he can have peace of mind. And of course, death can cause conflict. Oh yes, you wonder how would death cause conflict when one partner has died? It might not be the partner that died. It might be the death of somebody else in the family that could now bring about conversations that escalate into conflict. It will be how to bury, how to divide things, or even the way the family, the husband and wife, are seeing the issue on ground of how to bury. All of that could cause conflict. But you know what? When you talk about death specifically, and you talk about movements, these are things that must happen with time. Time happens to everybody. And that's why Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 tells us there's an appointed time for everything. And there's a time for every matter under heaven. There's a time to move. There's a time not to move. There's a time to change jobs. There's a time to be sick. There's a time to die. These are the kind of things that can cause conflict. But do they have to?
As you look at your marriage, do you see any of these factors playing out? How are you managing the attendant conflicts? Hopefully you are both working as a team and using the word of God to address the issue.
Yeah.
And the Lord will help you.
That is all we have time for today. But there's so much more that we can talk about as we look at communication, as we look at conflict. So subscribe to this channel and watch out in the coming weeks for more on this topic.
And we leave you with the words of Matthew 7:24. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who builds his house on the rock.
So be that wise man, be that wise woman. Build your house on the rock. God bless you.